All right, this is session 4, and this is all about the papers you will need to get started. This is the top of page 11. First bullet point says the paper that you will need to file to get your case started is called a petition for divorce or a petition for dissolution of marriage, or a petition to dissolve marriage. Something similar to that depending on what state you live in, but it'll be some variation of that. That's a document that says, okay, we're getting divorced, we're ending this marriage. That's what that document is. Bullet point 2. There will also be a piece of paper called a citation. We talked about that earlier, that's the official document that lets your husband know that there's a lawsuit out there that has been filed, and that a judge is going to decide what happens to his stuff and his kids. Okay, it is the paper that says you are being sued, and it'll exactly say that somewhere on the document. It has to have those types of words, knowing that he is being sued. And some people are like, oh, isn't that harsh? But yeah, and as I explained before, that's the reason why, the constitutional stuff. Okay, it meets the constitutional requirement. It lets your husband know that you officially filed for divorce. Okay. The sub bullet point there says if he doesn't respond, you can move on without him. You will need to get this from the clerk's office at the time that you file. So when you go in with your petition for divorce, when they're putting everything together and creating your case number, when they're assigning you what court you're going to be in, that's when you'll get your citation. So all those things happen when you go down and file for divorce. Okay, you'll get assigned a case number, you get assigned a court, and the court that you get assigned to is supposed to be random. They'll have some type of random system where they are assigning new cases to the judges, so that way not one judge has a whole lot of cases and some judges don't. It's supposed to be some type of random system that they use. All right, next bullet point says the paper that shows your husband officially received the divorce papers is called process of service. Okay, the paper that shows your husband officially received the divorce papers is called process of service. It's the form that the constable, sheriff, or private processor fills out to prove that service was done. Okay, so remember we talked about a little bit earlier about your husband needs to be personally served the paper. Somebody actually comes up to him and hands him the papers. That's usually a constable. Some states may not have constables, but Texas here we do. Or a sheriff will do it. Some people ask, what do sheriffs do? What do we, when do we have regular cops? And sometimes regular cops do serve papers, but most of the time that is a job description for the sheriff in your state, and or a private process server. And we'll talk about the pros and cons of those three in just a minute. Okay, the last little sub bullet point there. The judge is not likely to move forward with your case unless you have this piece of paper. You have to show that your husband has notice and that he was personally served. And again, that's not something that you fill out. That's something that the process server, the person who hands him the papers, fills out. Sometimes you have to find out whether it's your responsibility to then go file it. But most of the time, especially if you are representing yourself, they will just add a little bit more to their fee and say, okay, I'll go and file it. But make sure whether they're going to file it. So just ask, are you going to file it, or do you expect me to file it? Because sometimes they just mail it to you and you're thinking, oh, they're just mailing me the copy. No, you need to go and file it. Okay, so make sure you ask that question. Okay, top of page 12. Where to get the papers? The law library and online resources. Okay, so the courthouse where you file your papers usually will have a law library. So the courthouse itself, where you go file the divorce, they will most likely have a law library. Okay, and the sub bullet there says they will have form books for you to make copies of the forms you will need, or they might actually have the forms in digital form on their public computers as a Word document. And this is, if they have it, for example, all the 3 counties that I used to usually practice in, they have the form books that are there on the shelf, and then they also have the digital forms. So that way, if you need a petition for divorce, you can sit there on their computers and do that. But the next bullet point underneath that says email the forms to yourself so you can work on them later. Just restart the computer in the law library to wipe the memory of your email account. Okay, that's very important. All right, so put a star next to that, and absolutely remember to do that. A lot of times, again, you're using public computers. You want to make sure you keep your email, and even what your documents say. You want to make sure that you wipe the memory of it. And the best way to do that is when you're done, you email the forms to yourself, or maybe you worked on it for a minute, and then you emailed what you worked on to yourself so you can work on it later on. Make sure you close out of everything completely and make sure that you restart that computer. If you're not sure how to do that, ask the law librarian, and he or she should know how to do that. Next sub bullet point there says the books are usually called something similar to a practice manual, like you're practicing something, you're practicing doing something, practice manual, or form book for family law, or some places call it matrimonial law. Okay, so those are the books that you're looking for that have the forms and the explanations in it. Okay, the next bullet point says law librarians. Law librarians. They cannot give you legal advice. They're not lawyers. They're just not. But they can show you where to get the information that you need, or help you find where to get the information that you need. And that's really the heart of their job. They have, they know how everything is categorized in the law library, and they know how to help you find the information that you need. But as far as interpreting the law or helping you to understand and give an explanation of what a particular law means, that's what a lawyer does. And they don't have that type of training. They just don't. They have a training of how to categorize things and how to retrieve information, help you find information, but they're not lawyers. Okay. They will, the last sub-bullet point there says, they will point you to the instruction books and the form books to get the papers that you need to file your case. And they're wonderful. I love them. Okay, so that is the end of session 4. Take a deep breath. You're doing good. Let's do session 5.